This is your friendly reminder that not all watercolor paintings are made the same way. And a hot take, the best ones use a combination of three different techniques. In this video, I want to show you those three techniques step by step so you know how to use them in your watercolor painting. It might sound a little technical, but I promise you've probably already done these and just didn't know. And if you haven't, I'm going to show you how to start using them. And once you master these techniques and understand what they are, your paintings are going to go from good to great. If we haven't yet met, my name is Rachel, and I'm the manager and artist behind Mercy Creates, a watercolor business that creates products and paintings to help you create Christ-centered conversations in your home. I have a background in graphic design, drawing and painting, and marketing, so I not only like to make art, but I like to sell it too. And I want to help you make better art and sell it. We're going to cover three techniques that I also talk more about in depth in watercolor foundations. If you're interested in that course, you can find all the details below in the description. So let's get to lifting, wet on wet, and wet on dry. Wet on wet simply means wet paint on wet paper. This is the most common technique. I'm sure you've done this one. You've seen it on Instagram and YouTube. It really provides that soft, dreamy, organic feel to your paintings. You start with nice, clean and clear water and brush it onto your paper. Then you go back to your palette, make sure that you have wet paint on there. Pick it up with your brush and then drop it into the water. Now, this technique is great if you want to do something abstract, if you want to do some landscapes, if you want to have a nice full wash of color, but you are going to have less control with your brush and with the paints. The second technique is wet on dry. And if wet on wet meant wet paint on wet paper, wet on dry means wet paint on dry paper. Since you're not applying water in an area or in a blob on your paper, this technique gives you more control. It's your best for the details, for crisp lines, for architecture, for lettering. You have fewer surprises, better shapes, and faster drying time. This technique is also great if you're traveling and you want to paint wherever it is that you're at, because you don't need to wait for your paper to totally dry to pack everything up, and you don't need to stretch your paper before actually painting. This last technique is one of my favorites, and it's one of my go-tos. It's called lifting, and it helps create those smoother lines, blend in the paints and the colors, and it's also a form of erasing what it is that you've created so you can go back over it, especially if you've made a mistake, because it happens. Lifting is about how you remove the paint from the paper, whether it's wet or it's dry. Now, you do have to use this technique sparingly because after a while it can damage the paper. You're using a lot of water and you are scrubbing and kind of rubbing and blotting that paper with the water. So it's already in a weakened state to begin with. And this technique can damage your paper if you're not careful, if you're not gentle, or if you use it too much. Now, if the paper is already wet, you can just use a paper towel or a sponge and simply blot it on the wet paper, and it'll help lift up that paint. If the paper is dry, you're going to want to wet your brush and then lightly scrub, gently just move it back and forth of where it is that you want to erase. Blot it with a paper towel and you'll notice, okay, some of it is lifting. It is coming out from the paper. I am erasing some of it. You want to use this technique sparingly for textures, for details, for highlights. You don't want to go over a huge area and do this technique because you could damage your paper. Each of these techniques has a purpose. Wet on wet is when you want to do something very organic, very abstract, when you want to cover a large area with paint. Wet on dry is for those crisp lines, for those details, for a more illustrative approach. And lifting is for those highlights, that subtle texture, and for erasing some of the smaller mistakes or those oopsie splatters that happens when we're painting. Now, with a lot of practice, you can master these techniques and your paintings are going to look a lot more professional and look a lot more intentional. There's a previous video where I mentioned that, yes, I do recommend having some cheaper paper available so you can practice and you can see some of your color swatches. That's This is another time when that cheaper paper can come in handy because you want to be able to practice the wet on wet, wet on dry, and lifting techniques. My challenge to you would be to draw a subject like a flower, a simple daisy or a rose, and then use all three techniques on that flower. One flower made with the wet on wet technique, one flower made with the wet on dry technique, and then try and use lifting on both of them. Do you have a favorite technique? Let me know in the comments below. I'm pretty partial to the wet on wet technique. I really like, that abstract look. Who knew? But I think it's really cool to see when the colors are all blending and moving together and kind of just being surprised by what happens. So do you like wet on dry, or lifting? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.